Okay, we're gonna let the infantry come in. What's happening now is the reenacting Union infantry is forming up and coming through the cemetery. Listen, you can hear them before you'll see them. The U.S. colors and the 8th Kansas Company flag are flying in the breeze, leading the group along with the Buffalo Soldiers' flags. Please stand. As nothing can be accomplished without the assistance of the divine presence, I'm asking the Department of Kansas SUVCW, Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War Chaplain, Roy Lafferty, to come forward and give us our opening prayer.
God of battle and peace, ruler of destinies of countries of men, in this silent camping ground of the dead, we come before thee, asking thy blessings as we honor the memory of this defender of our country's honor, Doc McWilliams. Wilt thou, in thy infinite tenderness, comfort those who mourn him? Wilt thou speak words of comfort and consolation to their sorrowing hearts? Look in mercy, we pray thee, upon the widows and orphans and of deceased veterans everywhere. Bless and save from every evil the country for which this soldier and our fathers fought. Preserve in purity and integrity. Bless the members of this order as they have gathered here in response to the call of love and duty to perform these rites and remembrances over one of our nation's preservers, and that at last grant that we may all meet before thy throne, and to thy name shall we ascribe thy praise both now and forever. Amen.
You may be seated. Thanks for coming out today, attendees, guests, participants, for this headstone dedication for Doc McWilliams, who is a member of the 1st Kansas Colored Infantry, Company G. This event is a accumulation of a 10-month project for Sergeant Samuel J. Churchill, Camp No. 4, Lawrence, Kansas, Department of Kansas, Sons of Union Veterans. Historian Jean Klein had previously made the camp aware of her research concerning Mr. McWilliams' background and his lack of a headstone. In December of 2022, the camp voted to make an effort to procure a Civil War headstone through the Veterans Administration. With the help of Congressman Tracy Mann and his office, we were able to expedite the application. Warren McElwain Mortuary agreed to accept delivery of the stone and arranged for Strube Monument Company to set the stone. Working with the Lawrence Parks and Rec Department, the stone was put in place in the first week in May 2023. At this point in time, I'd like to recognize Tracy Mann's office and his representative, Adrian Perfecto. Is he here? Okay, I don't see him. I'd like to recognize Lisa. He's over there, great, thanks, thank you. I'd like to recognize Lisa Manley with Warren McElwain Mortuary, who arranged for delivery of the stone for us and contracted with Strube Monument for the setting of the stone. Lisa, would you stand up? There she is in the back. And I'd like to recognize Strube Monument, who we met out here on this joyous occasion when the stone was brought out, and they set it for us. So Strube Monument, would you, any representative, please stand up? There he is. A planning committee was formed during June, as I mentioned before, and we've been working since then to put together what you're going to see and take part in today, because you are part of it by coming. I'd like to recognize right now the committee members who put in place what you're going to see today, and please stand as I read your name. Mike Heck, Mike Todd, Mike Hadel, who's back here, Jean Klein, and myself. And for my part, we had, I can't tell you how many meetings, and I can't tell you how many phone calls and emails, but what you're going to see is a result, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Thank you for being on the committee. I've got some goals for today. If any of you know me, some of you do fairly well, I'm goal-oriented. In order to be successful, you got to be goal-oriented, whether it's in business, whether it's in athletics, or whether it's in your personal life. My goals for today are to dedicate this headstone and honor Mr. McWilliams' memory with this ceremony. But I also want to use this opportunity of us gathering together to educate and communicate to the audience and everyone here information and symbolism that you may not have been exposed to before. History is not static. We can learn from it and appreciate it today because history is alive in all of us. Doc McWilliams. Oh, I've got one other special guest I want to recognize. I almost forgot them, and I can't do that. Are any of the committee from that worked on the 1st Kansas Colored mural that's going to be done in Topeka? Or is any of the committee here today? There they are, right back here. If you're not aware, Governor Laura Kelly signed a bipartisan bill last March to honor the 1st Kansas Colored with a mural in the state capitol. And we want to thank Patrick Zollner, Representative Valdina Wynn, and other members of the Capitol Preservation Committee for their efforts. Next, I want to recognize the Doc McWilliams family that are here today and the ones that couldn't make it. I'm familiar with Stanley Harden. I got to meet him as we went through this process. Very soft-spoken guy, but a very deep guy, and I consider somebody who really appreciated what we're going to do today because it brought his family history back. So at this point in time, I'd like the Doc McWilliams family to please stand. You're going to meet some of them later because some of them will be taking part in the ceremony. Given the historical significance of the 1st Kansas Colored Infantry, it's so historic. And that's why there's so many reenactors who came today to participate, because they know their history. First African American unit formed in the North, and first African American unit to see combat in the Civil War. Very historic unit. It's almost time to begin our program, but first a bit of information. You heard one cannon shot earlier. There's going to be some others as we go through this program, and you'll see me take my hat off and let Mike Todd know we're ready for one. So if you need to cover your ears or do anything like that, you'll have a little bit of a heads up. Right now I'm going to ask that Brigade Bugler Terry Easley come forward and do a bugle call called To the Colors. And why it is significant is that if you're a Civil War soldier and you were under your arms and your commanding officer put you at rest and you stacked your rifles and you laid your colors across the rifles, when it was time to form back up, the bugler would make the call and you would come, find your company colors, and you better have remembered how many stacks of rifles you were away from your colors, because you wouldn't be able to find your rifle. They're all the same. Okay? So, and I don't want to use somebody else's rifle because it wasn't clean. I want my rifle. So the significance is this is how you gathered the soldiers back up and got them in line. And the significance of that is that's what we're doing here today. We're gathering back up after rest, and we're coming back in line for this ceremony. Terry? I now am going to call forward Shelley Todd, who is a music teacher and is going to lead us in the Star Spangled Banner. So if you'd all please rise, remove your covers, and join in, because I'm a terrible singer, and I'm going to step aside and Shelley's going to lead us in the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, ere their gates red glare, the pups bursting gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Shel. I'm going to ask Past Department Commander of Kansas, please remain standing if you can, of Kansas, SUVCW, Mike Todd, to do something some of you guys probably haven't done in a long time since you were in school. We do it as part of our ritual at every one of our monthly meetings, and that's the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike. We've got some very special guests here today. You're going to meet a number of them, but the first one you're going to meet is the Kansas Territorial Pipes and Drums. And when we were able to get these guys to come, we were just thrilled. They're going to do a number for you. Bill, what is the number you're going to do today?
Highland Cathedral.
Highland Cathedral. We had them going home, but they did that coming in. And they're going to do Highland Cathedral this morning. And if you don't get to hear bagpipe music very often, please enjoy this. You may be seated. Before we go to the next part of our program, which is laying of the flowers, I want to recognize another group that's sitting up with the Kansas Territorial Pipe and Drum, and that's the Buffalo Soldiers. If you guys would please stand, Buffalo Soldiers. We appreciate them coming. They're from Kansas City. I did that like that because some lady said she wanted to get a really good picture of them. So I made them stand up. The next part of our program is laying of flowers by the Allied Orders of the Grand Army of the Republic. There were 5 Allied Orders of the Grand Army of the Republic. Of course, the Grand Army of the Republic was the Union Civil War veterans, and they're no longer in existence. The Sons of Union Veterans is one of the Allied Orders, and it was changed to the Sons of Veterans was changed to the Sons of Union Veterans, and of course we're still in existence. I'm one of them, and a number of people are. The Ladies of the Grand Army of the Republic, still in existence. The Daughters of Union Veterans, still in existence. And the Women's Relief Corps, still in existence. We have representatives of 3 of the existing 4 Allied Orders with us today. They're going to be laying flowers in just a second. The color of those flowers is significant. Red represents the unstinted streams of blood shed that the blessings of a free government might be our heritage. The white speaks of that peace which with honor may our country enjoy. And with that being said, I'm going to ask Nancy Durbin to please come up. She's the past department president of the Ladies of the Grand Army of the Republic of Kansas. Then representing the Daughters of Union Veterans, they're all in white, you can't miss them. Mrs. John A. Logan, tent number 6, Wichita, Kansas, and I hope I've got the names correct. Judith Barnes, President, Nancy Miller, Marilee Rounds, Pat Schrader, and Linda Higgins. Please come forward. Watch that step. Thank you, ladies. And then representing the Department of Kansas Sons of Union Veterans is going to put a wreath right up here by the microphone on this stand is past Department Commander Rocky Bartlow from Topeka and past Department Commander Kent Melker from Winfield. Thank you. We're going to get into our educational part here real quick. I'm going to introduce someone that in just a second after we do something first. Before I introduce you, John, I got to tell you a real quick story. These guys with the cannon, 3rd Kansas Light Artillery Company B and McLean's Battery, when they haul these cannon all over the place to do reenactments, they want to fire them because it's expensive to haul them around, and so they want to fire them. It's now time to introduce Jeanne Klein, who I became associated with when she introduced to the camp, Lawrence Camp, which I'm a member of, the information about Doc McWilliams. She had done the research, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about that. She's going to tell you a little bit about Doc, because it's a very interesting story. And I think you're going to enjoy this. And without further ado, Jeanne Klein.
Today, we honor and celebrate Doc McWilliams, a prominent civil rights leader in Lawrence who always had a kind word for everybody and was loved by all who knew him. Born enslaved in Cass or Jackson County, Missouri, we're not sure which, he came to Lawrence in 1862, possibly as a contraband of war from a Union Army camp, and thereby earned his freedom before President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863. The first Kansas Colored Volunteers were organized by U.S. Senator James H. Lane, a controversial Jayhawker who's buried north of the cannons over there. He organized 6 A-F companies at Fort Scott on August 4, 1862, without federal authorization. Most men had been enslaved and half came from Missouri. Men were promised $10 per month, $3 less than white soldiers who were not charged for their uniforms. After this unit was federally authorized on January 13, 1863, Doc McWilliams enlisted and mustered in as a private in Company G in early February and March with 40 other Lawrence men. In early July, this renowned regiment became the first federal unit of black soldiers to fight alongside white troops at the Battle of Cabin Creek in Indian Territory in Oklahoma. Their blue silk flag, shown on the front of your program, commemorates other battles fought in Missouri, Arkansas, and Kansas. After the Battle of Honey Springs, Major General James G. Blunt reported, quote, "The 1st Kansas particularly distinguished itself. They fought like veterans and preserved their line unbroken throughout the engagement. Their coolness and bravery I have never seen surpassed. I never saw such fighting as was done by this Negro regiment. They make better soldiers in every respect than any troops I have ever had under my command." End quote. Redesignated as the 79th U.S. Colored Infantry on December 13, 1864, this unit suffered more casualties than any other Kansas regiment. Of the 1,192 men who served during 29 months of state and federal service, between 156 and 188 men were killed in action, 10 died from wounds received in action, 166 perished from disease, and 67 were discharged for disabilities. In his Kansas Adjutant General Report, Colonel Cyrus K. Holliday summarized their value as follows, quote, "Though suffering severe losses and fighting at great disadvantage, they faltered not, but with a steadiness and a gallantry worthy of themselves and the cause, have earned an honorable reputation among defenders of the Union." End quote. The 79th mustered out of federal service at Pine Bluff, Arkansas on October 1, 1865, and were discharged at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas on October 30. Upon their arrival on the Prairie Rose steamship, the Leavenworth Times reported that the men seemed in best of spirits and very glad to get back to their old trampling grounds. 5 years later, on April 17, 1870, Doc McWilliams married Melinda Hunter, the daughter of Jane Hunter, who lies buried right here. This is her obelisk. And her son, Frank Hunter, a longtime steward of the Eldridge House, who died in 1934. Melinda McWilliams, who also rests in this lot, raised over 10 children, 7 daughters and 3 sons, including Robert, a lauded attorney who partnered with Judge John W. Clark, and Thomas, who taught at the University of Monrovia in Liberia. To support his large family, Mr. McWilliams worked as a common laborer, an elected law enforcement officer for 1 year in 1881, and a janitor in local schools, and at the State House as a janitor in 1895, all of which earned him much respect. His employment agency with Allen Williams over Charles Anderson's grocery store downtown also assisted other black laborers. In 1887, Mr. McWilliams became the commander of the George W. Deitzler GAR Post 365, renamed the Samuel Walker Post in 1893, pictured on the inside of your program without identified names. So we're not sure which one is actually Doc McWilliams. We can make some good imagined ideas. Like many other black veterans, he obtained a certificate for his lost discharge papers in 1891 and did not earn his pension until 1908, 2 years before his death. Since at least 1880, he was an honorable Mason in the Far West Lodge No. 5, which was part of the King Solomon Grand Lodge of Kansas, led by Captain William D. Matthews. He also became the Grand Chancellor of the Knights of Pythias, Grand Lodge of Kansas in 1894. Having served as a devoted Republican delegate of the 3rd Ward in East Lawrence since 1873, citizens urged him to run for city council. But he lost the nomination, ironically, to the white commander of the Washington GAR post. Most importantly, Doc McWilliams fought for civil rights alongside Charles H. Langston, C.C. James, and many other Republicans. Keep in mind that in the mid to late 19th century, the Republican and Democratic parties held reversed positions from today's politics. The grand old party of Abraham Lincoln took credit for the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution that abolished human bondage, mandated equal protection to all citizens, and granted voting rights to black men. In contrast, Southern Democrats ended Reconstruction and instituted racist Jim Crow laws that suppressed black voting rights, much like today. Mr. McWilliams believed that Republicans sometimes failed in what they ought to do, but that was no excuse for black voters switching to the Democratic Party, which was a great deal worse. In 1883, he presided over a large courthouse meeting that condemned the U.S. Supreme Court's 8-1 decision that struck down the 1875 Civil Rights Act by allowing racial segregation in private businesses again. He joined citizens in telegraphing Justice John M. Harlan, the lone dissenter, for defending the civil rights of 7 million black people across the nation. While protesting segregated seating at county Republican meetings, he called on black men to rise up in the dignity of their manhood and condemn all such practices. Mr. McWilliams' published speeches about divisive political partisanship continue to resonate today. At a Republican rally in 1879, he spoke these words.
It has been said in olden times that where 2 or 3 are assembled in my name, I will be in the midst of these to bless. Fellow citizens, we have the number here. We have respect for legislative, executive, and judicial authority as a particular characteristic. Trained in the schools of loyalty and guided by the stern principles of wise Christian morality, the fathers made this new country a grand consummation. The systems of governance adopted by the United States is, in my judgment, the best system known to man. It rests upon labor, is created and controlled by the free and untrampled will of the labored. In such a government, the laborers must not only be free, but they must be citizens, having rights which the government and all classes of citizens are bound to respect and defend. We are not going back on the Republican Party, for she admitted us into her fold without money and without price. Then let me say to you now, do not stand between the two parties, for that kind of stand does not bring good, but shame. Yes, shame. We know that there is a third party club in Lawrence that knows neither party, but she's sitting on the fence. May the right club hit them that they may remember their country, their home, and their neighbor.
6 years later, he continued to counsel black voters.
We will live here and get our living from men of all parties. What is the issue between the Democrats and Republicans today? It is to beat each other. That is all. Upon one point, they all agree, and that we are all Negroes. We must work and think for for ourselves and assist the whites to work for good government without regard to politics, we will come to be regarded not as Negroes only, but as American citizens. But not until we look at the issue and not the name of the party. Let us associate with all good men.
And now we will hear from Reverend Stephen Barbie.
Good afternoon. As I read this afternoon, it says that if the muse were mine to tempt it, and my feeble voice was strong, if my tongue were trained to measure, I would sing a stirring song of those noble sons of Ham and of the gallant colored soldiers who fought for Uncle Sam. In the early days, you scorned them, and with many flips of flocked, say these battles are the white man's, and the whites will fight them out. Up the hills you fought and you faltered, in the vales you strove and bled, while your ears still heard the number, the thunder of the foe's advancing tread. Then the distress fell on the nations, and the flag was drooping low. Should the dust pollute your banner? No! The nations shouted no. So when war and savage triumph and spread abroad his funeral pale, then you called the colored soldiers, and they answered to your call. And like hounds unleashed in anger, and for the life and blood of the pride, spring thy forth and bore them bravely in the thickest of the fray. And whenever the fight was hottest, and where the bullets fastest fell, there they pressed, and unblenched fearless, at the very mouth of hell. Ah, they rallied to the standards to uphold it by their might. None were stronger in their labors, none were braver in the fight. From the blazing breach of Wagner to the plains of Ocelot, and to there were foremost in the fight of the battles of the free. And at the pillow, God have mercy on the deeds committed there, and the souls of those poor victims sent thee without a prayer. Let the fullness of thy pity o'er the hot wrath spirit assuage. Of the gallant colored soldiers we fell fighting on that day. Yes, the black enjoyed their freedom, and they won it dearly too. For the lifeblood of the thousands did the southern fields bedew, in the darkness of their bondage, in the depths of slavery's night. Their muskets flashed the dawning, and they fought their way to light. They were commanders and then brothers. Are there more or less today? They were good to stop a bullet and to front the fiery fray. They were citizens and soldiers when rebellions raised its head. And the traits that made them worthy, the virtues are not dead. They have shared their nightly vigil. They have shared their daily toil, and their blood with your common ling has enriched the southern soil. They have slept and marched and suffered neath the same dark skies as you and me. They have met a fiery foeman and have been as brave and true. And their final deeds, they find a record. And the registry of fame for their blood has cleansed completely every blot of slavery shame. So all honor and glory to those noble sons of Ham, the gallant colored soldier who fought for Uncle Sam.
I'd like to introduce a special guest we have with us today, and that's Dr. Tamara Herrick, who came in from Maine, who's one of the family. She is the great-great-granddaughter of Doc McWilliams, and she will be speaking for the family.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Keep this short and sweet going after him. I'm not a speaker, preacher like that. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of you for coming out to honor Doc McWilliams. And I want to thank the committee for your extensive research and commitment to this project. Our family has learned so much more about our grandfather, filling in a lot of holes that were in our family history. This dedication makes us very proud. I know that Doc is looking down on us and is very proud that this day has finally come, 110 years late. But thank you again for this important dedication. Thank you.
We now have the Kansas Territorial Pipe and Drums. We'll do Amazing Grace. And now we will have a firing of the salute, first by the Union Infantry reenactors. Captain, take command of your company.
cover, arm. Shoulder, arm. Up out, face. Shoulder, arm. Fire.
Captain, deploy your unit for stacking of arms.
Detail, shoulder, arm. 2 ranks, right, face. Forward, march. Detail, up, front, left, dress. Stack, arm.
What you just saw was the stacking of rifles that we talked about earlier. And when the bugler would play Call to the Colors, you'd see there'd be a row as far as you could see of stacked rifles. And then the company flag would be laid across the stack, and you counted over how many stacks you were from the colors, so that you knew where to form back up. So that you got with your squad, your 4-man squad, so you could get your own rifle. They're going to stay here right where they're at while we finish the rest of our ceremony, which is very poignant because today we have a special treat. Not only do we have taps by Bugler Terry Easley, but Eric Smallwood, who belongs to Buglers Across America, is going to do the echo. And a lot of times you don't get to hear the echo. Bugler Terry, take charge. We're now going to hear a reading of another poem that was written by a Civil War soldier, and I've used it in many ceremonies over the years. I want you to listen to the words because it's asking you and I to participate. And it's asking us to come forward. It's asking us to be part of history. Okay? So listen to the words. Our camp commander, Mike Heck, is going to come forward and read When the Boys in Blue Are Gone by John Hendricks.
When the comrades have departed, when the veterans are no more, when the bugle call is sounded on that everlasting shore, when life's weary march is ended, when campfires slumber long, who will tell the story when the boys in blue are gone? Who will tell about their marching from Atlanta to the sea? Who will halt and wait and listen when they hear the reveille? Who will join to swell the chorus of some old Grand Army song? Who will tell the world the story when the boys in blue are gone? Sons and daughters of this nation, you must tell of triumphs won, when on earth our work is ended and the veteran claims his own. You must all cherish Old Glory and its teachings pass along. You must tell the story when the boys in blue are gone. To that flag, our country's emblem, you must pledge allegiance to. To that flag, our nation's emblem, may your hearts be ever true. That the nation be protected against injustice and all wrong. You must tell the story when the boys in blue are gone. You must keep your country's honor, from each stripe withhold all stain. You must take the veterans' places and repeat the roll of fame. You must keep your country's honor and your flag above all wrong. Then we'll trust you with the story when the boys in blue are gone.
Thank you, Mike. We're going to do something pretty special right now. It won't take long, but many of you who frequent cemeteries and see stones like this in cemeteries all across the country, many times you'll see a GAR marker with the star, you know, an 1861, 1865 metal marker. And the significance of that is those guys way back when belonged to a GAR post, and they mark their headstones. Or if you're like me, you go to cemeteries a lot, and if they didn't have a government headstone but they had a family headstone, a lot of them had their service record, who they served with, engraved on their family headstone. That's how proud they were of that. They knew they were part of something more important to them, more important than they were. They saved the country that you now live in. It's now one country, not two. Okay? And so today, I'm donating a marker. I had them made a number of years ago, I had a few left. A marker for Doc McWilliams. And I'm going to ask Stanley Harden and his family to come forward. I'm going to ask Stanley to put the flag in, and I'm going to ask their family, any of them that want to lay flowers. And the problem is, I hate to tell you this, but a lot of the headstones had markers, but they've been either vandalized or hit by mowers or stolen. This one is going to be cemented in by Lawrence Parks and Rec. Thank you, family. Is Mr. Galbraith here? Okay, I guess I will get to do it, unless, would you like to lead us in a closing prayer? Since we have an official minister here, I'm just a fill-in at our church, so we'll let this gentleman lead us in our closing prayer. Then I've got a few closing remarks for you. Uncover.
To those that are able to stand, let us all stand at this time. The God of creation, the God that sustains us, the God that loves us, the God that brought us together today. God, we thank you that you're still in control, and God, that through the life and legacy of Doc McWilliams, Father God, you've allowed us to gather here to celebrate his legacy, to celebrate his story, but most of all to celebrate his sacrifice. God, we thank you that history was told, but God, today you allow us to step into history. So God, as we leave this place, but not your presence, let us be barriers of history that others can see the good in us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, I pray. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. I've got some closing remarks for you real quick. In just a second. This is going to be a cannon volley, and what that is, what you heard before was a line volley. 1 cannon, 2 cannon, 3 cannon, 4 cannon. This is all 4 cannon at one time. Just a few minutes ago, Commander Mike Heck of the Lawrence Camp read the poem When the Boys in Blue Are Gone, and in it the Civil War veteran author asks, who will tell their story when they are gone? In my opinion, the sons of Union veterans of the Civil War, as well as the other Allied orders, have been entrusted to tell their story, and that's what we do by joining the organizations that we belong to. I would like for all members of the Sons of Union Veterans to stand up if you're sitting, or if you're in line, please raise your hand. Thank you. As we close our ceremony today, permit me to thank the Kansas Territorial Pipe and Drums, the Buffalo Soldiers, the 3rd Kansas Light Artillery, Battery B, McLean's Independent Battery, Colorado Volunteers, the Union Civil War reenactors from various units, buglers Terry Isley and Eric Smallwood, vocalist Shelley Todd, and our speakers. In my opening remarks, I mentioned I wanted to dedicate, communicate, and educate today. And I believe we've accomplished that, all of them. Thank you. But that's not it. There's one more. I want to stimulate you to delve into your own history, or a period of history you're interested in, at any level, and research it. And research your family's history if you're interested, if it's not known, as you may never know what you might find that really interests you, and you might find a Civil War veteran in your background. If you're male and have a Union Civil War ancestor, you should be in the Sons of Union Veterans, or join as an associate member if you're interested. Don't have to be a member. It's a great way to honor your ancestors' service. We have information at the table right over there. If you'd like to find out more about us, there may be a few souvenirs available from today's event. I'm not sure. I hope you enjoyed today. I thank you for coming. Spread the word about history and anything that interests you, because it lives within you today. If you'd like to visit with any of the participants today, Sons of Union Veterans, the ladies, the infantry, the artillery, the Buffalo Soldiers, the Kansas Territorial Pipe and Drums, or any of the speakers, feel free to come up and talk to them afterwards. I'm sure they'd be glad to talk to you. Be careful getting out of the cemetery to go home. Have a great rest of your day.
Attaboy, Tom. Attention detail.
Can I take a picture of that before you... Get some?
How you doing, sir?